How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Nadal, Daf 54 of Masechet Nedarim, friends. Well, Daf 54 is interesting because it talks about, are gourds considered vegetables? That's an interesting question. Or better yet, if you make a neder that you're not going to have vegetables, can you have gourds? That is a really interesting question. Alright, let's jump in. It says we're starting the 7th parak. Nedarim min hayarek. It's called, the 7th parak is called somebody who makes a neder about vegetables. Wow. Can't wait. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you know my friend who I always poke fun at, that I always try to make excuses? Anyways, today, Mamish, whatever it was, he came over. And we were just making jokes. Yeah. So, I know them in a yerek mutter b'tluin. So somebody who says, I'm not going to eat any yereks, I'm not going to eat vegetable things. So he's allowed to eat gourds. Alright, what can you do with a gourd anyways? Rabbi Akiva oser. Rabbi Akiva says you can't eat gourd. They said to Rabbi Akiva, Valo omer adam l'shlucho kach liyerek v'u omer lo matzasi elad dluin. But 1 second. A guy says to his messenger, hey messenger guy, go get me vegetables. And he comes back, he says, look, there's no vegetables, all there are gourds. What does that imply? It implies that gourds are not vegetables, right? There were no vegetables. All there were these other things called gourds. Omer loim, Rabbi Akiva responds, no, Keina Adover, that's the point. Oshema Omeru lo matzosi ele kitnis, el shadluin bichlal yerek, v'kitnis enu bichlal yerek. When the messenger comes back and he says, look, I couldn't find vegetables, all I found was a gourd. He didn't choose gourd as a random thing. You know, you asked me for vegetables, look, I didn't find vegetables, but I found, I don't know, ice cream. That would be ridiculous. The point is, he's saying, look, I couldn't find the Yerakos that you had in mind, but I found this other member of the Yerakos family. Right? Rabbi Akiva says the fact that a messenger would come back and suggest that you get a gourd implies that it's part of the Yerek family. That's Rabbi Akiva's argument. Okay, he's not allowed to have moist Egyptian full bean stuff, but he's allowed to have dry ones. Interesting. I haven't had hummus with beans in a long time. I don't know, but honestly, I guess it would be nice, but what are we going to do? Go to the store? It takes time to go to the store to get hummus with beans. It's quicker to get soup. I'm going to tell you, what am I going to stand there while they put together the order? That's boring. I don't know, maybe I'll get it. What am I going to do? Hummus with black beans. It's probably pretty good. I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? Excuse me. Nedarim min hayarek chulei. So a fellow who makes interesting. Very interesting. Okay, says the Gemara, Nedarim min hayarek. Okay, we're talking about a fellow who says he's not going to eat yereks, vegetable things. V'ha min yerek nadar. Oh, so we're asking a kasha on Rabbi Akiva. The Rabbi Akiva says that he's not allowed, right? If he says that he's also from Yerakos, so then you're not allowed to have gourd. So the Gemara wants to assume that a gourd is not actually a vegetable. So therefore, why would a gourd be also? So Ula says, Ula be'omer yarke kideire olai. Well, he says when the vegetables of the pot, and that includes a gourd. Maybe he's talking about things like onions, things that kind of, you add to a dish to make it taste better. I can't remember the time. Why are we talking about kitchen food stuff? You talk about food, then you get me all distracted with all the things I haven't eaten years. Okay, Ola. He says the things that are cooked in a pot, and alright, so therefore it could include gourds. Now, so what's the machlokas between the Tanakama and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbanon tzavei kol milsa detzarich shlicha limluchei Allah lav mineu. Well, the opinion of the rabbis is that anything that a messenger is going to have to come back to the sender and say, look, I couldn't find what you wanted, all I could find is this other thing. Well, that other thing is a different thing. And therefore, if he says, Nedarim Yerakis, he'd be muttered to have gourds, because gourd would be the kind of thing that he would come back and say, look, I couldn't find Yerakis, so all I could find was gourd, which means it's an under azach, it's a different thing, and therefore he's going to be mutter. Rabbi Akiva, so Rabbi Akiva holds punkt fakert. Kol milsa de mimlich shlicha Allah mineu. Whereas Rabbi Akiva holds that no, something that a messenger would suggest as a replacement would be something from that same family, and therefore it would be also. Rabbi Akiva nonetheless admits that when it comes to Malchus, right, if he violates his neder and eats gourd, he would not get whipped. It's not awesome. We learned Ashaliach she'asa. We learned in the Mishnah Ashaliach she'asa shlichuso balabayis mal. Oh, so if a sender sends a messenger to do something that he would be over on Me'ilah, so if the messenger does it, so who's chayiv to bring a korban Me'ilah? The sender, not the messenger, right? So we're going to see an example in a minute. So shaliach she'asa shlichuso, if the messenger does the assignment of the sender, balabai is small, so it's the sender who is over on Me'ilah. Lo asa shlichuso, but if the messenger improvised and did things that he wasn't specifically told to do, well then shaliach ma'al, it's the messenger who's over on Me'ilah. Okay, now, Mantana, who is the author of this Mishnah? Rav Chizda says, Rav Chizda masnisin to lo Rabbi Akiva, this Mishnah is not Rabbi Akiva, it's not, because the Mishnah continues and says, Keitzad, no, what exactly is the situation with the messenger and Me'ilah? Omar loi, if the sender, if the Balabai says to the messenger, Tain basar la'orchim, put out meat for the guests, v'nosan laim koved, and instead of putting out meat, he put out liver, and I guess this was kodshim meat or hektish. So the Balabai says put out basar, put out meat, and he put out liver. Tein koved v'nosan loim basar, or if the Balabai says give them liver and he gave them basar, meat, hashaliach ma'al. So it is the in this case it is the messenger who is over on Me'ilah, not the Balabais. V'i Rabbi Akiva, and if this was Rabbi Akiva, ha'amar Rabbi Akiva, but didn't Rabbi Akiva say, Kol milsa demimlech Allah shaliach minehu, limo Balabais v'lo limo shaliach. But did Rabbi Akiva say that anything that would be the type of thing that you would ask the messenger, right? You would say, look, I didn't find basar, all I found was liver. So that would be considered the same thing, right? And you would be over on Me'ilah for the, right? You'd be right over on the neder for it, right? It would be the same kind of family. So therefore, liver is the kind of thing that you would ask about, which means according to Rabbi Akiva would be considered the same thing. And if it's the same thing, well then, the shaliach is doing what he was sent to do, right? The Balabai says, give the people meat. He gave them liver. Liver is something that you would ask about, which means it's considered meat. And therefore, according to Rabbi Akiva, it should be the Balabai who is ma'al. But we're saying that it's the shaliach that is ma'al. Let's read that again. V'ir Rabbi Akiva, if this Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva, ha'am Rabbi Akiva, didn't Rabbi Akiva say, kol milsa demimlech ali shaliach, something that a messenger would ask about. For example, he would ask about liver, in the context of meat, minehu is its type, which would mean that liver would be considered meat. Limol balabais, v'lo limol shaliach. The sender, the balabais, should be the one who's over on Me'ilah, not the messenger. And we're saying that the messenger is over on Me'ilah, so clearly it's not Rabbi Akiva. It must be the Chacham, must be the other opinion that says that if it's something that you have to ask about, then it's considered something else, and that is why the shaliach is ma'al, not the Baal Habayis. Rabbi Akiva says Abai, you can even say that this Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva because milamodu Rabbi Akiva the tzarichem luche, but Rabbi Akiva would admit that he would at least have to ask. Over here we don't see any indication that he actually asked. and therefore it would be even Rabbi Akiva would say that he was improvising, and therefore the shaliach is over. Itmar Shmaita Kami de Rave. This was taught, right? This teaching of Abaye was taught before Rave Omar Lohon, and he said to them, Shaper Omar Nachmani, that Nachmani, Abaye who grew up in the house of Rabbi Bar Nachmani, he said, good. Okay, that it could even be Rabbi Akiva. Mantana the Polygola of Rabbi Akiva. Who is the Tana who argues on Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. It is none other than Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. The Tana is we learn in the Brayso. Nedarim min ha-basar. Fellow says he's not going to eat any basar. Also b'chol minei basar, so he's not allowed to have basar. Basar b'rosh, and he's also not allowed to eat the head. And for aglaim, the feet, uv'kone, the esophagus, I guess, uv'koved, the liver, uv'leiv, the heart, uv'ofis, as well as birds. Umuter b'basar dogim v'chagam, but he's allowed to have the meat of fish. He's allowed to eat fish and grasshoppers. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, says Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Hanoder min ha-basar, a fellow who says that he's not going to eat basar, also b'chol minei basar, he's not allowed to have all sorts of meat, umuter, but he's permitted to have birosh u'v'raglayim, the head and the feet, uv'kone, and the esophagus, uv'chaved, and the liver, uv'leiv, and the heart, uv'ofis, and the birds. And certainly he can eat fish and grasshoppers. And certainly can eat fish and grasshoppers. So we see that when he says he's not going to eat meat, that excludes all of these other things that would be considered other things. It says Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Kravayim lav basar ve'ochlein lav bar inish. That intestines. Now, is that something that's called tripe? Is like intestines like tripe or something? Is that just like a fancier way to say intestines, or is that actually something else? Does tripe necessarily include the intestines of pork, of pigs? Lav basar. So intestines are not considered meat ve'ochlein, and people who eat them lav bar inish. They're inhumane. They're not human. Ochlein kibasulin in zabine lav bar inish. All right, and the nafkamina is if somebody prefers to if he has a choice between steak and intestines, and he goes for the intestines, I guess that's no good. My shno besar of the Tanakama de osir. So now the Gemara wants to say, 1 second. According to the Tanakama, how come the meat of birds would be osir? Right? If you say you're not going to eat basar, so we say you can't eat basar. And according to the Tanakama, you oichid can't eat birds, but you can eat fish. David shlicha de mimlach ole. Is it because the birds would be the kind of thing that a shaliach would ask for? I'm sorry. So according to Tanakama, right, you're not allowed to eat. I think that's what I said. You're not allowed to eat meat. You're also not allowed to eat birds, but you would be allowed to eat fish. And we're saying, okay, why would you be forbidden to eat birds? Is it because that birds are the kind of thing that a shaliach would ask about? But but fish as well, if he can't find any meat, he would say, look, but I found this fish. And I think that the point is that in passing, we see that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is saying that these things that you would ask about, you would be mutter for, which would mean that Rabbi Gamliel argues on Rabbi Akiva. So now, right, to Omer, ilo mishkachna bisra aisi dogim v'litzru. So if according to the Tanakama, the reason why when he says he's not going to eat basar, he's also not allowed to eat birds, is because birds are the kind of things that you would ask about. And if it's the kind of things that you ask about, therefore they are asr. But then the same thing should be by fish, because fish you would also ask about, and they should also be asr. Omer bai kigon sheik is dum. Well, it's talking about, for example, if he, this is a different case, it says of Rapape, You're going to take his dam, for example, if he bloodlet, to lo'achil dogim, that he doesn't eat fish. But but if he is bloodlet, then he also shouldn't be eating birds. Shmuel says the mesuchar v'achil bisur d'tzipara, that somebody who bloodlets and then eats bird meat, parach libe kitzipara, so his heart is going to fly out of him like a bird, or what was it? To flutter like a bird. V'tanem, we learned about it in makizim v'al dogim v'al ofis, that when you bloodlet, you don't eat meat and fish, and you don't eat birds. V'lo b'sar melech, you don't eat salty meat. V'tanyan, and we learned in the Brisa, ekes dam, fellow who bloodlets, lo yochel lo chalav, lo gvina, shouldn't eat milk or cheese, v'lo beitzim, or eggs, v'lo shechlaim, or cress, v'lo ofis, v'lo basar, and not v'lo b'sar melech, and not birds, and not salty meat. So we see that, right? You also shouldn't be eating birds either. So we see, yeah, but ofis efshar ayidei shlika. Yeah, but by birds you can always boil them. You can always make chicken soup. And if you make chicken soup, then that's taka a gute zach, right? So therefore, when the Tanakama says that he's going to be osur to have birds, but he's allowed to have fish, it's because it's talking about a situation where he bloodlet, and if he bloodlet, then he wouldn't have had in mind fish, because fish you don't eat fish after you bloodlet, but the birds you could taka theoretically eat if you make chicken soup. Abayam says Abayam could go into chayven le'ene. Well, it's talking about where his eyes hurt. Actually, the dogim caution le'enaim, that eyes are bad for your eyes. Yachil dogim. But one second, that's because Yitaka should eat fish. Shmuel says nun samachain nun no samar le'enaim, that fish are taka good for the eyes. How sof uchla? No, but that's only at the end when you're starting to get better. Then the fish are good for the eyes, but not before then. All right, what do you want me to tell you, friends? That was daf nun daled Masechet Nedarim. So we talked about if a fellow makes a neder against Yerukas, can he eat gourds? Tanakama says no. Yes, he can eat gourds. Rabbi Akiva says he cannot eat gourds, and the reason is because gourds are the kind of thing that you would ask about. If you couldn't find Yerukas, you would say, okay, but what about gourds? According to Tanakama, from the fact that you're saying I couldn't find Yerukas, I only found gourds, means that gourds are not considered Yerukas. Whereas according to Rabbi Akiva, they say no. The reason why he's suggesting gourds is because they are from the same family. And we said that the Tanu who argues with Rabbi Akiva is of Shimon ben Gamliel. All right, friends, how's Daf Nun Daled Masechet Nedarim? I hope you enjoy. Peace out.